Hello, everybody. My name is Addison Hall, and I have been a website designer and developer for a little over 20 years now. And WordPress is my latest, or current platform of choice. And GeneratePress is the theme that I've been using. And I also have my own child theme that I've kind of developed over the years that I've been using it. And when I first decided to start using GeneratePress, when I was looking for a theme that I wanted to use, I knew I wanted a framework. I wanted something that had all the basic parts and pieces, menus, footers, headings, things like that, and then I could take it and make it my own. And you see, I follow Tom Osborne and get all his updates for GeneratePress, Generate Blocks, WP Show Post, all that. But this is my theme, child theme, sorry, which owes very, very much to what Tom has done with GeneratePress and just the amazing theme that it is, with all the hooks, with all the features, with the he invites you to customize it and to make it your own. And plus, he gives lots of great functions that you can piggyback on and add your own stuff. So I made this and I've shared it on GitHub, and I hope other people find it useful. But I wanted to make this quick video. I say quick, it's probably going to be a little bit long, to go through all the parts and pieces that I've included. Nothing in great detail, but just to get people familiar with, hey, here's what I've added, what I found useful. Get in there and make it your own. Steal stuff from it, whatever you want to do. But I hope other people will find it useful. And yeah, so here we go. So here is my development theme. I'm running on Laragon, I guess is how you say it. I'm on Windows, and it's certainly nothing special. I've just got some stuff dropped in that I use to check things. Here is the dashboard in the admin, which pretty standard. So what I thought I'd do is go through as an editor first, because this is one of the big things that I do for my clients. I'm logged in as an administrator right now, but if I log out, I'm going to get back in here as an editor. And you'll see it's greatly reduced as far as what you see. And I wanted to strip away all the unnecessary stuff so they can only have access to the necessary items that they might be editing. So we have posts, we have the media section, we have pages, of course. My projects is just a custom post type I threw in to play with things. There's really nothing there. Menu. So now there's no appearances menu. You have menus and you have widgets, and then you have your profile. So there's no comments, there's no settings, no appearance section, anything like that. So again, the bare minimum. So I guess what I'll do is just go through the parts of the theme. So here I am in VS Code, and here is GeneratePress child theme. And it really comes down to this functions file, and you'll find most everything there, at least a link to it. There's a lot of stuff going on in the Inc folder, the includes, but you've got all your basic stuff. I've set up a constant to have my own version number that can be changed globally. I don't like showing the admin bar. That's my personal preference. I encourage my editors my clients to have the admin open in one tab and the live site open in another. Totally up to you. Stuff where I'm on queuing, some different styles. So I have in base CSS, I have, and this is pulled from something that already exists. I did not create all this. So yeah, if you go to basecss.com, you'll see it. It's one of the early kind of pale windish CSS frameworks, I guess, that just had some utility classes that I thought were nice. So I've customized it a little bit and added my own things. it has the responsive classes kind of follow what GeneratePress did initially with Unsemantic, which was the CSS framework that it used to use, previously used. It doesn't anymore. But so, this may change in the future, but for now you have mobile, tablet, and desktop. Okay, if you're wanting to affect only those screen sizes for different things, and mainly I mainly use it for these margin and padding classes, which you have the regular ones here that there aren't any responsive breakpoints that constrain these, but further down, there's some flex utilities. Yeah, so here we have where you get responsive margin, mobile sizes only, tablet margins, and desktop, and then same for padding. Yeah, Gutenberg is where I put all of my styles that I need to affect in the Gutenberg editor. And as I have it set up, it also shows up on the public side of the site, the live portion of the site. So it's kind of a juggling act. But if you want it to only affect the editor, I mean, just comment it out and don't queue it up for the public side of the site, because for the editor, it's queued up right here. I also add a GPC class, GeneratePress child class, to the body throughout the site. So if I were to view the source code, let's see, where's my body classes? Yeah, so, oh, wait. And I'm probably just not seeing it. There it is. Yeah, right there. So that just lets me target or override stuff pretty easily if there's a class and a plugin or something that I need to override, that I need to make my styles more specific. I'm also adding has.js through JavaScript, jQuery, and yes, I know I need to ditch jQuery and all that, and I probably will at some point, but there's so many plugins that still rely on it, Gravity Forms being one of them as far as I know. So I just haven't made that leap yet. And yeah, if I do the inspector, you'll see, yeah, here's that has.js. So, great for applying styles only once JavaScript's been loaded. I do like shortcodes in my widgets. I like excerpts in my pages. And here's all the other stuff. So I have all these includes that I'm going to go through these files one by one. But, I wanted to do it this way so that, if I'm not doing anything specific with generate blocks, let's say, maybe the site doesn't require it, you know what, just comment it out and it won't even be included. So I wanted it to be very modular, is that right? Component based. But yeah, so it pulls from, I'm not going to save that, everything in this ink folder. Yeah, so we looked at the admin CSS. No, we didn't. Well, we'll get to that. I'm sorry. There's a lot of stuff, and I'm just jumping around. So yeah, I'll just go through them one by one. So advanced custom fields. Love advanced custom fields. I use it for everything. It's just some stuff that I find myself always using. Setting up a settings page in WordPress. If I'm including Google Maps and I need to include the API key. And you'll notice for a lot of these things where there's a hook, I'll have the function defined, but maybe if I'm not using it, I'll just comment out the hook. So if I were going to use this, I would uncomment the hook, put in my API key here, and certainly make sure that it's uncommented or available in functions.php and go to town on it. Here's where advanced custom fields let you create your own custom Gutenberg blocks, which is awesome. Great stuff. So here I have one, kind of a generic one for staff. And I even have the template is available under, let's see, where is it? Template parts. And I have one for blocks and one for shortcodes. And here's the staff. And I like to keep the CSS separate. So here's where it calls the CSS. And right now, it's going to call the CSS globally. Because what I normally do is I always have Alt Optimize the plugin installed on my sites, and I set it to concatenate all of the CSS and the JavaScript and roll it up into one file. So I'm not going to call this only when this block is available, but you can do that. There's a way to set that up. This is just my preference. So that is that. Moving on, I did create a breadcrumb, and I reference here where I got the code for it. And I tweaked it a little bit just for my preferences. And you can see it in action right here. It's just a simple, really simple breadcrumb. Yeah. And it has some customization options, what the delimiter between the crumbs is. Mine's a little arrow, a little triangle, what the classes are. So, certainly go and make it your own. Colors. This is, I love this. So Tom Usborne, the creator of GeneratePress, has got all these great functions happening on the back end, and you can search the forums and the documentation. And here you see I've got where he references how to add to the customizer color palettes, but you can also add to the Gutenberg color palettes in this way. Or actually, this is just my color array where I define my colors, and then I roll it through both this function for my custom color palettes for the customizer, and then for the Gutenberg color palettes. So you define your colors here, and it will add them all there. And while I'm talking about this, let's also look at styles. So here I also reference those colors. And if we take a peek at the source code again, you'll see that this little bit has been added, this base inline CSS. And I haven't figured out how to roll this into, Tom has a feature in the theme that takes the custom styles you apply to your theme through the customizer, and it writes them to an external style sheet. I haven't figured that one out yet, but I'd like to. But anyway, so it adds these to as inline styles in the header. So you get your colors. So all these colors that you define become CSS custom properties or variables, whatever you want to call them. And it also adds the colors for you to use in your styling. So you get these custom classes, both in the color classes and apply to buttons, our link colors, and also background colors. So I define white, which is boring, but it's, I have light gray and dark gray as well. But just looking at white, it defines the color. It also defines the background color, and I get this custom property. So all that's created automatically for you when you include your colors in colors.php. I also have this CPT output custom, which stands for custom post type output. And this might apply to not just custom post types, but in the beginning, that's what I named it, and I just haven't changed it. And in saying that, a lot of these naming conventions might not be the best choices, but that's what they ended up being. So that's what they are. Again, here, I've commented out the actual hook, but the function is, well, I'm not going to go through these specifically, but basically it lets me override the content. You use the content filter to say, hey, whenever we're trying to view this custom post type, use my template instead, whether we're looking at an archive or the single view of that post type post or entry or article, whatever you want to call it. And those currently live in partials, the partials folder. And these are old. They're just for example. I wouldn't imagine you using them in any live situation or production or development, whatever. So certainly change them to be what you need them to be. But here we have sample custom post type. We have sample taxonomy, a custom taxonomy that you've created. Custom sidebar layout. So this is just stuff that, and really that might be a GeneratePress function that would probably be better in GeneratePress.php, but it's here for now. And a custom sort order for a custom post type if I want to change the default way that it's sorted. So these are just some things. Here's some even menu stuff that have to do with custom post types. Oh, that's why. Okay, so if this were a custom post type where I wanted a special sidebar, and now you can do this actually in the elements portion of GeneratePress. Anyway, moving on. I don't mean to get bogged down. This you no longer need because you can do it in the elements module, same as some of this other stuff. But it used to be how to override some of the way the stuff is output. But you can do that through, like, say, you can change your sidebar output. You can change your footer, or I think even whether your widgets in the footer display. You can control that through elements. Again, Tom's done a great job adding that stuff directly in WordPress. Dashboard widgets. So I like to give my clients a list of their short codes that I've created for them, so they have a reference to that with any notes they need. Although this is quickly being replaced by the advanced custom fields, the custom Gutenberg blocks they let you do. And here's where I have a Vimeo account that's, I think, Vimeo Plus Pro, something like that. I pay for it a little bit, and I can create password protected collections of videos for my clients where it's much like this. It's me talking through how to update their site. And I include a link and password here, and I tell them, whenever you need to update the site, whether it's at, during the workday, or it's, 12 a.m. and you're sipping wine in your underwear at your desk in your bedroom and you need to make some changes, you can find the link to your tutorials and your password here. And any other dashboard widgets you might find useful. Fonts is, well, it's all of the options for adding fonts to WordPress. Tom has given, by default, GeneratePress only shows a select grouping of Google fonts that you can choose from, but he gives you the option through this hook to show all of the fonts, at least that he has included. It doesn't pull dynamically from Google Fonts, so you still don't get all of them. If you need some fonts from Google Fonts that aren't showing up, that's what this is for. And you have a place here where you can completely get rid of the Google Fonts in the markup. Although now I think if you don't include any Google Fonts, if you just leave, if you either choose fonts that are imported, with this function, this is how I include my Typekit or Adobe Fonts or fonts.com, any other source. You can do that here. This one is to just in case you need to remove, if for some reason the Google font reference is still showing up, including like Open Sans or something, you can ditch it here and force it not to show. But I'm pretty sure it's not necessary anymore because Tom has it so that it won't show up if no Google fonts are being called from the customizer. The only drawback with this one, where you can include Typekit, fonts.com, things like that, is that there's no cascade. You can't say sans serif here, at least not that I'm aware of, because this is an array where you must include the font name. It's not an actual way to include all of the CSS, I suppose, whereas this at least gives you this cascade where you can include, is this a sans serif, is this a serif, or handwriting, or whatever. But anyway, it's still, it's there. I'm sure probably support will be added for that in the future. Generate blocks. So love generate blocks. It's really covered that ground that page builders were filling, but in a much more native and lightweight method, and it's great. But perhaps GeneratePress doesn't have the default settings that you like. Well, of course, Tom's given us a way to override that. And so what I've done is, by default, I at least want my buttons to be consistent. So this goes through and looks at the settings from the customizer in GeneratePress, and it applies them to the styling of the buttons in Generate Blocks. Awesome. Okay, and you can also do, excuse me, you can also look at the other settings. You can uncomment this. I'll do it real quick. We can take a peek and come to your, I think you can do it anywhere in the admin. And then view source. No, not anywhere in the admin. Okay, so let's look at, I think maybe it's pages where it's actually called. Yeah, I don't know why I'm getting those warnings. That's another issue altogether. Here we go. Okay, so you can look at the values of the default settings. And I'm not going to go through what all these are, but if you want to know what the font heading family 2 is, and you want to change that, you can use this to insert the value in the default settings for GeneratePress. I'm Generate Blocks, I'm sorry. And if you need to look at that, I've included a forum link, but it goes to a search, and so that is probably going to change, but I encourage you to look up this file. So it's WP, I think I can open it here. Yeah, it's video plugins, generate blocks, includes, and defaults. Where's my defaults? There's defaults. Here we go. So you can use these and fill in whatever values you want. So if, again, I'm not going to show you exactly how to do this. You can look at what I've done here. It's grabbing object values, I think that's the right term, and replacing them with what I'm digging up from GeneratePress. So I'm pulling these settings and applying them to these settings. Yeah. Anyway, very cool, awesome stuff. And again, Tom has done a fabulous job in opening up these options. GeneratePress. Oh, let me go back. Recomment that. GeneratePress is anything I want to customize in GeneratePress. And some of this has been, so, do you want to get beta versions of GeneratePress? Excuse me. I like to rearrange that the logo so that the header widgets come before the logo and then the site title and tagline. But you can, move these around as you wish to get the effect you want, get the outcome you want. There was also a way to control what role the GeneratePress options were shown to. So if I didn't want them shown to an editor or contributor or anything like that, I could do it. I could look up what capabilities a role had in WordPress and determine, let's say, editors can't see anything that GeneratePress offers. I found out I don't want that anymore, but it's still there if you need it. I'd rather do it through this, so I can control, say, on posts. I don't want to allow my users or my editors to be able to control what sort of sidebar there is, or whether or not the title is hidden or anything like that. So I'm simply saying when a post is being shown within the editor, or you're editing a post, don't show any of the GeneratePress meta boxes. Yeah, very good stuff. Helper functions is just for any additional functions that you may need, just to keep them in a separate place, neat and tidy for me. Again, my preference. This is just something that helps build, if I'm looping through items in a custom post type or something, and I want to apply animation classes so that they pop in one after another. This lets me add these different classes, and that's something I'll get into later. Custom image sizes, if you want them. I have square small and square medium that I like to add. Some optimizations. And you can do a lot of this through Auto-Optimize now. You can disable the emoji stuff that's added. You can remove the version parameters from your asset, your style assets, and your script assets. But you can do it programmatically here as well if you want. Short codes. So I have some standard shortcodes that I used to use. I don't use shortcodes much anymore. Sometimes I do if the need arises, but uh, this may not be the best way. I used to keep them all in one file, and they can get kind of big. And I do have places where I've called out template parts. These are all just samples. They don't actually work because they have to be built out in advanced custom fields. And I've tried to include notes about that kind of stuff. But they're examples. So if you want to look at them and build your own and see what I've done, knock yourself out. Again, this was that styles script that I tried to write so that I could pull in my own styles created. Here's some custom button styles like outlines, and it will pull the colors from the button colors. So if you've made red buttons on your site, this will automatically create a class for you that is a outline button that is outlined in red. So yeah, so you can expand this and add some other stuff if you want to. And I don't have a super good understanding of the way Tom has written all this stuff. I really ought to ask him for some help. But yeah, it is what it is right now. And it entirely writes to inline styles. That's right. It does not write to an external style sheet. It's all inline in the heading of your page. But again, with Auto Optimize, you can set it to pull all this stuff and then write it to an external style sheet all in one. It'll concatenate everything. I built a small submenu widget that's, I think, pretty cool. I don't have an example of it on hand. Basically what it does is if you have sub items under, say, sample page, you can drop in a widget that will only show those sub items as a section menu when you're under sample page. That used to be a pretty big, I guess, user interface convention. Now possibly not so much anymore, but I still have it there in case I want to use it. It's not perfect, but it's there. So if you need it, it can be pretty handy. Here's the reference to where I got the help in creating it. So here is the actual stuff for the widget itself, and it uses this file to do its thing to output the widget itself. Users, anytime I want to hide or show something specifically to users is where I do what I need to do here. So for example, with the editors only seeing certain parts within WordPress, here's where I've removed certain pages and added certain pages of my own. Here's the that custom menus page and custom widgets page. I've also removed some items from the admin bar, comments and customize. I don't want them to be able to do that if they're an editor or a shop manager. And admin scripts and styles, here's where I throw in that role editor. CS, yeah, here it is. Yeah, that's where it throws that in. And all it does is hide the customizer button that shows up on the menu page. This page, I think there's a little, edit menus in the customizer, and up here next to widgets, there's normally I think edit widgets in the customizer. I didn't want editors accessing the customizer in any way. Widgets, right now all it does is it allows me to hide certain widgets. Again, I want to get rid of as much unnecessary stuff as I can to just clean house, keep things tidy for my editors as much as I can. And then WooCommerce, nothing there. I do use WooCommerce for some stuff, for some e-commerce sites, but not often. If you do need to do any customization and there's hooks and things I can apply, this is really just a place where I can keep it all separate. But WooCommerce goes beyond that, and you can, have your own templates folder that overrides theirs. It's kind of like having a child theme within a child theme, but that's for a different video. And then WP Show Posts, which another plugin I love. Tom's updated it recently, and now we have carousels and cards and other goodies. But I think this still applies. He has these hooks where you can disable links. Like maybe you just want a list of things and you don't want it to link to anything, a single view of that thing. You have an archive view and you have a single view. You just want the archive view. Maybe you have a list of team members with just a picture and a name, and that's it. You can use this with this ID number to target which of your WP Show Posts outputs that you're using. Do I have WP? Well, anyway, and you can affect it here, and it'll remove all the link stuff. And this was something much more involved and possibly unnecessary that I built that really removed all the links for authors, for the dates, and again using the ID, or actually the actual ID applied to the group in the output, and it used PHP XML, the DOM-X path. I'm not a super duper PHP developer, so this took some doing, and I am surprised I had the patience. But yeah, that helped remove all that stuff. And it might still be handy to some people. I haven't used it in a while. And then I have my JavaScript file, which right now just has some animation stuff that I use for, a lot of my clients like the fancy stuff where like, you scroll down a page and elements fade in. They fade in from the right, from the left, things like that. So I had to add some JavaScript so that these elements were hidden to begin with, and then I have an element checker to see when it's scrolled into view, and it applies some other classes to make them fade in. So that's all this is right now. This might be where I apply my Google Maps stuff, or I don't know, anything you need. We talked about the partials, talked about the template parts, talked about the functions. I guess the README has the stuff you see on GitHub. There is an Affinity Designer file that has the screenshot, so you can change this certainly whatever you want. You might want your client logo here or something like that. Styles is the last one. I haven't included, there's no Sass, there's no post CSS, anything like that, no compilers, no gulp, no Webpack. You can certainly set this up yourself to do it however you like. Honestly, I've gotten to where I just mostly write straight up CSS. I'm trying to use the newer stuff like the custom properties, variables, again, whatever you want to call them. And there's some empty spaces in here. And again, this may not be the most optimal naming for these sections. It's just how it turned out when I started doing it, and I've become accustomed to it. It just begins with some basic things that I'm already using, like my embed containers. Here's the breadcrumb stuff, the submenu widget, and the animation stuff. This preload and has JS prep animation so that it shows the stuff when it needs to. And then some of the animation stuff. And I just got this off of Animista. Yeah. And you can certainly go in here and tweak, the starting points and how fast they are as you like. But that is mostly it. That's a big, broad bird's eye view. Hopefully, I think I'd like to go into more detail in some of these other sections and how I've used them and why and kind of what they do. Maybe even show some other things like how I build out, I don't know, like the staff block in advanced custom fields. But yeah, I hope some other people find this useful. Check out GeneratePress, Generate Blocks. They're very cool. Tom Osborne's a great guy, great developer, really helpful to the community. There's a great GeneratePress community. Check them out on Facebook. There's a great group that answers lots of questions, as well as the forum. But yeah, so try it out. Feel free to let me know about issues or pull requests or anything else, and have fun developing.